Hey everybody, it's Mike with Monkey Fab. Glad you're stopping in. Check out the video. We're gonna be talking about belt sanders and how to upgrade them in today's episode. So, not all good deals are necessarily good deals. So I was at Harbor Freight and I had a coupon for like, I don't know, $50 to get this 4 by 36 inch belt sander, because I have a big belt sander. And there's an episode of how to upgrade their bigger belt sander in my videos. So if you ever want to check that out, how to put a 3-horn. So I wanted to run one of these woven abrasive belts on it. So I got that, and I love these things. You guys always hear me talk about it because they just do a tremendous job of cleaning up edges. It's a little tough to use my handheld one on the vise to do like large pieces of aluminum. So I've thought this might be a good idea. We'll get the little guy. It didn't really have to do much. I wasn't really hoping for much, but even with low aspirations and low expectations, it's still, Harbor Freight still succeeded in letting me down. So that brought me to where we're at now. I got this guy, threw it on there, threw the belt on there, and it just wouldn't run. If you could just literally just take your hand and boop, and it would stop. And these belts, will take a little more force to drive than a regular sand paper. So if you got the machine and you're using a regular belt, you're doing wood, it probably does okay. So my thought was to upgrade it, which isn't that big of a deal, because if you're watching this video, you're probably the kind of person that buys things and tears them apart anyway, or was a child that got a toy and tore it apart. No big deal. What I wanted to do was, I was hoping that I could just find a motor to replace it. This is the motor that came in it. It said it's like 3/4 of a horse, and maybe they meant ponies or squirrels, but it's not 3/4 horse, and it just won't work. So these are generally, motors are supposed to have data plates on them that tell you what's going on. And there's one that's called the frame size, and the frame size will tell you the exact outside dimensions that this thing is packaged in. I did some searching around, did a lot of Google searching, and asked on some boards, and I just came up blank. No one could give me a frame size, or just couldn't find the information. So that kind of left me out like, well, what do you do? And the cheap answer was to go to Harbor Freight and pick up one of their motors. So their motors are all the same size. So they're half to their 3 horsepower motor. It's all in the same frame. It's bigger. I mean, it's physically, much bigger. As you can see in the picture there. So that's where we're at. So we got to make that motor fit on this guy. It's a 1/2 horsepower. It was like $100. So now I'm in it for like $150 plus like $30 for the belt. It's not bad. If it runs, like it's supposed to, and I can lean on it, then that's good. And now I don't know, because I didn't do my homework and I didn't go out there and look around to see if there was something in this kind of size that actually was powerful enough to drive the motors. There might be something at some of the other hardware places, but $150 isn't too terribly bad, or $160, somewhere around there. So then the question came to, how do you package it? And you'll see it's got the base. This guy right here sat on the base. The motor set underneath this guy, and the belt connected the top portion, which is basically the sander assembly, to the motor, spun the drive wheel back here, and everybody was happy. So now we have a much physically larger motor, and just not an option. We're too big and too bulky. Now, there could be a chance of making this work. I could remove the capacitor, I could remove the wiring, the power wire thing, and try to figure out a way to make this work. And I thought about that. That was definitely an option, because that's really what I did with my larger sanders. I just pulled I raised it with some spacers, put a bigger motor underneath it, and it was happy. It lent itself to that. This really doesn't. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut a new base plate for it, and we're going to mount the motor behind it. So it's going to end up being like this configuration. So all I had to do is just figure out where all the holes needed to be at. Find the hole centers and the widths, and that was fairly simple. Just laid it out, and I laid it out in my CAD. I'm just gonna cut it on my plasma cutter out of 1/8 or 10 gauge steel, and then we'll mount everything onto that, and that'll be one unit that we just pick up, put it on my tabletop, clamp it down, use it. It'll be wired for 110. The nice thing about these motors, you can wire 110, 220 up to the 2 horsepower motor, and this is a 1/2 horsepower, by the way. It was the cheapest. It was just because it was the cheapest one, and I figure it's going to push it. It looks physically more robust. It's a whole lot heavier, so my thinking is it might actually be a real 1/2 horsepower motor, as opposed to what they spec out on their tools that they're selling. So I can wire it for 110 or 220, and I can do it in clockwise rotation or counterclockwise rotation, just depending on how I wire it up, and that's perfect. So that'll make it simple to wire it up. I'll put it to the original switch. I'll try to wire in the original switch, or we'll come up with some kind of like switch box for it, and it'll just plug into I have a 30 amp. All my 110s wired for 30 amps, so I'm not going to have any trouble pushing the motor off of the 110, and I only have like 4 drops for my 220, so it'll make it simple. I can just plug it in anywhere, and I don't have to go to one of the far corners of my garage or shop just to get to the 220. So that's where we're at. I've already drew this out in the CAD, found all the offsets, so that will be an easy step. It's just basically loading the machine, cutting it out, doing some cleanup, and just welding on some supports underneath. I'm just going to weld some supports, kind of lift it up, and give it a little space underneath, and add a little rigidity to that plate, so it's not just a thin sheet of 1/8 mild steel. It'll have some reinforcements. It'll basically make like an I-beam kind of configuration with just welding some supports down the sides and on the front. And it'll make like little feet for it to stand on, so it's not swirling all over the workbench. It'll actually have a couple points that it'll put its weight on. The only thing on this setup that I'm going to have to deal with is that the arbor for the pulley is, I think it's 5/8 inch. So the one that came on the machine is, I think it's metric, to be quite honest, but it's around a 1/2 inch. So I'll have to find a pulley for this. I'll probably be able to go to Tractor Supply and pick one up, I imagine. Worst case scenario, I can throw the pulley that came with it in a lathe and just machine it out to 5/8 so it fits on here, and just use that one. One thing I have seen on the good old YouTube about these guys, I believe it was a YouTube channel, was somebody was like, I'm going to upgrade this. And what they did is they swapped in a bigger pulley, so basically got more RPM out of this. And, power's power, and power over a distance is just like a motor. You look at your horsepower, and horsepower is a multiplication of the torque times the RPM. So what this machine needs is it needs torque. It doesn't need high-end horsepower. It needs that low-end oomph, and overdriving it I think could help to a certain extent, but you're still going to have the problem where if you apply pressure to it or bear down the machine, it's going to want to stop. Alright, so here is the layout of the plate. Okay, so we got the CAD file imported into the CAM software, and we went ahead and set the feeds and speeds and the pauses and all that good stuff. So we're ready to cut. The metal's already loaded up. Zeros have been, the offsets have been done, and we are ready to go. And we'll hit the go button. Start. That's it right there. We got our supports and the base plate cut out, so as long as those holes all line up, then we're kind of good. So we'll pull that out and check that now to make sure that all the holes are lining up with the brackets on the tower and the motor. So you could do all this with you know, a drill and a cutoff, you know, like an angle grinder. I don't think it'd be too terribly tough. It would just be a little more time consuming, obviously. Yeah. Check out them GLS Fab welding cups, available at Monkey Fab Garage, monkeyfabgarage.com, monkeyfabgarage.com. Okay, so I cut that guy, and when I had my CAD on, when you're doing offsets in array, when you're arraying like a circle, you know, for these bolt holes, you can do it from the center line, or you can do it from like in between the outside most diameter or whatever it was, and I had the wrong offset on. So I got to take it over to my the base and the motor, and it doesn't line up. So I know right away like what I've done, because I've done it before. So a wise man said measure twice and cut once, but there's no fun in that, and you're certainly not going to learn. So we just went ahead and redid it. We got the motor will sit there, and the base will sit, y'all. And our pulleys will line up, and our slots for our holes are doing fine. And I just got to check to make sure that this guy went big enough so I can fit that stud through there and weld the nut in the backside. And then all we got to do is just do some cleanup and weld on the feet underneath it, and it'll be pretty much good to go. Alright, so we got this guy cleaned up, and just took a disc, 80 grit ceramic. I use what do I use? I use benchmark abrasives for my little sanding discs, because the ceramic ones, they work great. Use if you use a 36 disc, it'll just burn right through. It can just blaze right through thick metal steel. And I considered MIG welding it, just because I hate taking off mill scale. but what the hell, man? Might as well TIG weld it. It's a bit funny. We will weld at 120 amps is what I'll set the machine for, and nothing special. Just that. So I'm gonna be at like 18 CMF on the flow. And I'm using my number 12 GLS cup that I sell on my website. For $40 you can have one too. And if you drop it, they don't break, which is a cool thing. But they're not meant to be used like a hammer, so don't do that. It knocks the screen out. When I cut these sides, I made them like 1 inch, I think. I made like the ends 2 inch, or 1.5, something like that. That way it'll be rigid in the middle, but it'll be rigid in the middle, but it'll also still have, it won't be rocking all over the place, because it won't use that. It'll just have 2 feet on the end, which are these little guys. Boop and boop. Put my hoods on. It's always a good idea. Really crooked. Is it really crooked, or is this goddamn? My support's crooked. So we'll just tack it on how it is, and we'll just run it. We'll just go with it. We'll fill that gap. we'll go about 135 on the amps because it's going a little slow. Yeah, light again, we're gonna go 150. Is that too slow? It's too slow for me. So I'm not gonna weld the entire length of this thing because that'd be stupid and a waste. So I'm just gonna hit it like an inch in like 3 spots and that'll be plenty. It is funky. See? That's why you buy those cups. When it drops, it's still in one piece and you can just, bam, right back up. No problem. Have you bought a ceramic big cup, or you'd be sad and you'd be on the internet. God damn it. Still not sad though. Maybe annoyed. Still not sad. So that is good gas coverage. We'll keep them nice collars in it. Now, I kept the post flow like crazy high to get those collars, but that's possible when you have a big cup. It's just easy to do that. Assembly! Where did you go? Oh, where did it go now? On this guy, we just kind of got lucky, and the plasma cutter almost nailed the. I was trying to go a little bit bigger, but the plasma cutter just nailed it. It was perfect, so I just went ahead and tapped it out. Alright, so I went ahead and wired this guy, and basically there's just a wiring diagram for these motors, and there's like 3, 6, 7 wires in there, and you just have to follow the wire diagram for what you want. Whether you want to turn clockwise, counterclockwise, you want to wire it for 240 or 110, or whatever. So right now it's on, it's all wired up, so it's not bad. And I can almost make it fit. I feel like if I went ahead and modified that pulley, and since I'm feeling like I don't want to wait, I think I'm just going to go ahead and give it a shot. I don't have the right drill bit. I wish I did, but I do have a good old stepper bit that's pretty close. So I think if I could drop it down to where it needs to be, I think I'm going to go ahead and try to punch that with that drill and see what happens. Alright. So I think I'm bound to fucking destroy this thing. So I just thought I'd turn on the camera and let you enjoy, because there's nothing better than watching a train wreck. Drill, check. Battery, check. There's no way this is going to work. This is going to end miserably. This is going to end badly. Yeah, it's got a little bit of run out in it. It actually looks like it's fucking. I don't know how it's possible. Maybe if we just tap it. A little tappy tap. Oh shit! Oh shit! Success! Look at that! Look at that! It's chooching! It's got the belt going and everything. That is awesome. That is awesome. Let's find a piece of aluminum. Oh, aluminum! Oh, here's a nice piece of shitty drop. All right. So happy. Oh, that's nice. It's got nice, it's doing a nice job on the edges. I could not do that. There's the back, I did the whole back. So I could not put an edge on the old machine without it just stopping. Boop. I could just take my hand and lightly stop it. And now we're chooching, man. That's pretty good. And like I can't get it slipped, but it's the belt slipping on the pulley because I didn't really, you saw me try to do that by myself. I need some help, but I bet if I got some help, that'd be good. So that was. So it's $100, like $115 for the motor, and some wires, like $10 worth of steel, and there you got a functional sander now. I bet it worked pretty well once you tighten that belt up. And the cool thing is, like I said, all these motors are the same size, so you could go all the way up to a 3 horsepower motor, which is insane. I use that on my big 4 by 48 or 6 by 48 belt sander, oatmeal, and it's got a 3 horsepower on it, and you can't stop it. I can take a metal flange, like a whole header flange, and just put all my weight on it, and it doesn't stop. So it'd be easy to upgrade. I think the 1 horsepower was like, I think it was like $20 more, maybe $10 more. It wasn't much. I didn't want to mess with it. Like, I don't need that much. I kind of knew in my mind that half horsepower would be pretty much good for what I need. And that's all I need is just cleaning metal like that with one of these guys. There you go. That's how to upgrade the Harbor Freight 4 by 36 belt sander. And I hope you enjoyed. I hope it helps you. And be sure to go check out my website, monkeyfabgarage.com, for all your turbo fabrication needs. Thanks. All right, so I'm back. I was thinking about the sander and how you would do it if you were at home, because let's face it, most people don't have CAD software. So the easiest way that I could think of was just take the base plate and just put it down on whatever it is you want to cut and just trace out the holes. I mean, that's simple enough. The only critical measurement is that from this hole here on the tower, you want to go a ½ inch down and 2 inches over to get the correct offset for that motor, the larger half horsepower one. And then with its holes, all you have to do is just take a piece of paper, trace out that bolt pattern on the paper, and just do the same thing. Just make sure that you get the center and top of that pattern just a ½ inch and 2 inches, and that'll set you up perfectly. So I won't have to bother with getting all the measurements on the CAD stuff, which saves me time. and you guys don't need that anyway. Just do that and that will be perfect.